Madini Mazimba, I'm back again. Yeah, I know it's been a long time since I released anything new on this channel. Life has been happening and life continues to happen. But even though when life was happening, I always, managed to remain updated on what's happening on the music industry. I always made time, to catch up on what's happening because I'm a huge fan of our local arts industry. So right now, I think I'm a bit more stable and I felt, I can resume these videos. So I thought of album reviews, but currently there are a lot of albums dropping left, right, and center, and keeping up to date, doing reviews of all those albums, it's nearly impossible. So I think I'll only be doing a few select album reviews going forward. Otherwise, I thought, okay, let me resume some of those kind of different series that I used to do on this channel. And one that I chose to begin with was the best albums from Zimbabwe. Now I've already done 8 parts of this album, so today will be the part 9 of the best albums from Zimbabwe. And now I thought, okay, where should I start? Which genre, which music style? And Mbira music stood out for me. And over the past 5 years or so, my relationship with Mbira and Mbira music has grown from strength to strength. Growing up, I was scared of Mbira music. I think you know the connotations I talk about Mbira music. So growing up, I used to shy away from Mbira music. But as I matured, as I got older, as I tried to find my identity, who am I as a Zimbabwean, you find out that you cannot answer that question without going back into history, and that's where Mbira music coming to play, because within our Shona culture, our Shona tradition, Mbira is a very important and vital instrument, and also is the only instrument that was created in Zimbabwe, 100%. So when I started learning more about the Mbira, I started becoming more and more proud about being Zimbabwean, and it's one of those things that definitely makes us unique. So I felt, let me compile some of the best Mbira projects to ever come from Zimbabwe. There are a number of albums, many albums. But for this part, I will only be sharing 5. That's what I do on this series, is just 5 albums. I don't want to overwhelm you with music. 5 albums whereby you can just take your time, listen to the music, let it speak to you. So without wasting much time, let me get to those 5 albums that I've carefully curated for you. So the first album I'll be talking about is Tozvireva Tingaputike Neshungu by Mbira DzavaDzimu. This album was released in the year 2000. The track list includes tracks such as Kumatendera, Sangodema, Taivaziva Kare, Tozvireva Tingaputike Neshungu, Uyauzoona, Saramugomo, and Ndongamawe. Now this is a fantastic album. I remember when it came out around 2000, I was still quite young. I think just towards me finishing my primary school. And this album made quite some noise. I remember the track Saramugomo. Diwe, Saramugomo wa wega wega. It got a lot of airplay on ZTV, on radio stations. For a lot of people who grew up in that era, you definitely know this track. But in those days, I was still skeptical, I was still scared of Mbira music. And even though it got a lot of traction, I shied away from it. But recently, as my relationship with Mbira and Mbira music started growing, I revisited this album, and it's a fantastic piece of work. I'm a huge fan of this album. Mbira DzavaDzimu, now I understand why a lot of respect is put on the guys behind Mbira DzavaDzimu. They did an amazing job. And the title track, Tozvireva Tingaputike Neshungu, it's among some of the best, some of the finest Mbira tracks to ever been released in Zimbabwe. It's just that powerful. Now the second album I'll be talking about is Timeless by Chioniso Marairi. Now this album was released in 2004. The track list includes tracks such as Upenyu Kutenderera, Vana Vanogwara, Wandrasa, Rebel Woman, In This Life, Mukarangani Shanje, Urombo, also known as Mgarandega, Chembere Dzemsango, Andibozorora, Nemausasa, the traditional version, Ndofanchibaiwa, and Ziva Kwaunova. Now when it comes to Chioniso, a lot of people know Ancient Voices is the album that really made the brand Chioniso. A lot of the respect, that Chioniso gets, it came from that album. It's a fantastic album, I would not lie. And a couple others may know her last album, Rebel Woman. But, this album, Timeless, is, for some reason, it sort of got overlooked. But for me, if you tell me to rank Chioniso's albums, yes, Ancient Voices, it's like the undisputed number 1, but this album, Timeless, it gives Ancient Voices a run for its man. It's that wonderful. And on this album, it's a bit different from the strategy that she took on Ancient Voices. On this album, she went full acoustic. This is just her vocals and the Mbira, and it's just so beautiful. So definitely take a listen to this album. It's an amazing album. The next album I'll be talking about is Mbira by Effort Mujuru, which was released in 1983. Now, the track list includes tracks such as Mbavaira, the title track, Mbira Mbira, Mudande, and Nyamamsango. It only has 4 tracks. And this album came at a period after when Zimbabwe had just gained its independence. And it came at a period where people were trying now to find our sound in terms of the artist. A lot of people before then, they were copying, there were a lot of cover bands, rock bands, this and these bands. And after independence, a number of artists were asking themselves the question, Kuti, now as Zimbabwe, we are an independent country. What is the sound of Zimbabwe? What is our sound? And this was Mbira in its rawest kind of form. Yes, in a way, it sort of got overlooked because some of the big names that were there, the Deverangwenya Jazz Band, Makanya. So this album did not get that, mainstream kind of attention, but it has stood the test of time. And for a lot of Mbira students, be it in Zimbabwe and even abroad, this is one of those albums that they use to learn Mbira. This is the album that they use to understand the basics of Mbira. So it's definitely a very vital album. Now, the 4th album I'll be talking about is Talking Mbira, Spirits of Liberation by Mbira DzavaDzimu. This album was released in 2002. The track list includes tracks such as Ndabaiwa, Chachi Murenga, Uchiseka, Msandifungise, Paitarima, Tapera, Namoimbiri, Manja, and Uvimi. Now, Mbira DzavaDzimu, I feel she's definitely one of the best cultural ambassadors we've ever had in Zimbabwe. Most of her career, she resided in Germany, and whilst in Germany, she did, she hosted a lot of seminars, a lot of shows, a lot of lectures, teaching people, educating people about the beauty of our Shona tradition, not African, but specifically our Shona tradition. And she did that using the Mbira. And Mbira DzavaDzimu has a solid roster of projects, but for today, I chose the album Talking Mbira. And I feel this is also her most successful or widely recognized project. It's just a fantastic project. On this album, she created it in a way that it's easy on the ear, especially for those, for the foreigners, those they did not grow up listening to the Mbira. Their ears not tuned to the sound of the Mbira. She mixed it with a lot of some of modern instruments, even the way that she arranged the tracks. But even as she did all those things, the essence of the what we know about Mbira, the essence of our Shona culture and tradition is at the core of all of the tracks on this album, and it's a fantastic album from Mbira DzavaDzimu. Now, the last album I'll be talking about on this episode is Zimbabwe Shona Ritual Music by Mbuya Nyati. Now, the track list includes tracks such as Muroro, Bukatiende, Karigamombe, Chigamba, Moyo Yadzungaira, Changamire Mdzimu Dzoka, Chipembere, Changamire Munoera, Kuenda Mbire, Dande, and Chigwaya. Now, this album, it's actually fun how I came across this album. I remember a couple of years back, I was searching for Chigwaya by Dr. Thomas Mafumu, and I saw this version. And if you're not familiar with a lot of these traditional folk kind of tracks, we don't even know who composed those tracks. So many people over the years have done various variations of those tracks. There may be one with the most popular version, but most of those tracks, such as Anachipvaya, Changamire Mdzimu Dzoka, Dande Kuenda Mbire, a lot of people, a lot of artists over the years have done their own rendition, have done their own kind of version of those tracks. So I played the track Chigwaya, and you know what? I was impressed. I was very much impressed. It's different from the one that I was looking for Yamkanya. Yes, there are some very similar elements, the theme, some of the progression of the Mbira, but this one is more raw. And I started researching about Mbuya Nyati, who is she? Because that was my first time listening to her, knowing about her. And it's actually crazy that very little is very known about who she is. The name Mbira Nyati is the one that we have. And Nyati, I'm sure it's part of a clan name, a totem name. There is still some mystery around who Mbira Nyati is. And that is a sort of certain mystique on this album. And also when you look at how this album was created, it's created in a Mbira kind of format. The way that she performed the tracks on this album, it's like they were recorded on an actual Mbira. It has that Mbira feel. The energy, the atmosphere of this album is just spot on. It's one of those albums that if you just let it play, it can easily get you into a trance. That is what it was created for. For Mumuyakuti, you are now preparing to go Mbira. You are preparing probably to have a conversation with your ancestors. This is the sort of album that you should just put on repeat. I think it's one of the albums that I've listened to the most. I think for the past 15 to 18 months, I've listened to this album a lot, especially when I'm traveling, because it has that aura. It it just gets me into that mood, which is quite special. I definitely recommend a lot of you to take a listen to this album. Now, that wraps it up for the 5 albums that I'm just sharing for you on part 5 of best albums from Zimbabwe, the Mbira edition. So I know a lot of you have some albums that you say, okay, you missed this album, you skipped this one. Go in the comment section, share with me some of the albums that you feel deserve to be on this list. And if you have managed to listen to some of the albums that I've put on this list, share with me, share your memories about that album. How did you come to appreciate Mbira music? What drew you to that album? Why do you love that specific album? So yeah, thank you for watching. Subscribe. Like the video. See you again next time.